Hello. This is part 3 of the Minecraft rig tutorial. We're going to be taking on the torso and the eye controllers pretty much for this video. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to toggle X-ray, and for here, I'm going to be in the high collection because we don't really need it to be visible in the final product of the rig. Or is that how you say it? So we're gonna add a new bone, and we're gonna move this up to about 1.2, and we're gonna move this to about 0.2. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hide the main layer because we're going to need to duplicate a few bones. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna press Shift D and deselect this and move the top point of the bone down. So now what you want to do is you want to click on this bone and you want to click bone constraints, the bone constraints property, sorry, and then add bone constraint stretch to. Now make sure that the target bone is, so make sure that the target is set to armature, and make sure that the target bone is this one right here. Now what we're also going to do is we're going to select this bone right here, and we're going to parent it to this bone right here. And one thing we're also going to do is we're going to set the volume variation to 0. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the bone properties of this bone right here, this one, and we're gonna go to this category called bendy bones and set the segments to about 32 and make the start handle and end handle to absolute. Now for the start handle, make sure that is this bottom bone right here. And for the end handle, make sure that it's this bone right here. You don't really need to name these two bones, but that's up to you. Now, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the viewport display of the bone and set the display as to B bone. And if I move this bone, this is what should be happening. If it's, for example, uh, something like this, make sure you check your settings because, yeah, just make sure you check the bendy bone settings so that everything is working correctly. Again, it should be this bone should be here, and this bone right here should be here. All right. So from what you're seeing is this is how it should be. So what we basically did is we created a bendy bone. So I'm also going to name this chest bendy bone. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the main layer if you have one, of course, and we're going to basically add a bone, and we're going to move it to about 1.2 and move it to about 0.2, which is basically the same dimensions as, well, it basically has the same dimensions as the chest bendy bone. That's what I'm trying to say. And you want to select the bone that you just created, and then you want to right click and then click subdivide. So this will make it so that it basically splits the bone into two bones, as you can see here. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to hide the bones that we don't need right now, and we're gonna select this bone right here and make sure it's parented to this bone. Now we're gonna add one more bone, and we're going to rotate this to about 100. Why is it not? There we go. And for the roll, you can just set it to 0 or 90 or 90 more degrees, which is basically 180. So yeah, for me, I'm just gonna set it to 0, which I recommend. And then we're gonna move this to about 1.2, and then we're gonna move this point of the bone all the way down to like Uh, yeah, I'm probably not gonna say that number. So now, we're going to parent this, uh, to this bone. This will be the hip bone. So now we're going to press Alt H to unhide the bones we basically didn't need. So now if we move one of these bones, you can see that this type of thing starts to happen. And this is pretty much how it's supposed to be. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select the mesh, the body basically, and we're going to add a modifier, armature, and make sure it's the armature that we have. And then we're gonna add a vertex group, and I'm gonna name it the chest bendy bone because we have a chest bendy bone right here. And I'm going to go to edit mode and just click assign. Now you may notice that if I rotate this bone, you can see that it's not the way it's supposed to be doing it. Well, that's because it doesn't have enough like cuts. So basically, we're gonna click on this button right here, which is the loop cut button, and then you want to make sure that the number of cuts is set to 11. So now, as you can see, it works. Yeah. So now we can basically turn this off, but we're going to select the hip bone and we're going to parent it to this bone right here. And then we're going to select the head bone and then we're going to parent it to the chest control, which is this bone right here. Now, basically, if you don't want the head to rotate along this bone right here, or basically keep its rotation when it's moving down, you can select the head and turn off inherit rotation. And then the head will always keep its rotation. One thing that I just realized, where basically if you move the armature, you can see that this type of thing happens. And that's because the objects aren't exactly parented to the rig, so that's why it's exactly happening. So we're going to select the objects that basically we have worked on so far. Or if you want to, you can just select all the objects. And okay, wait, no, these are already parented. We're gonna select the objects that aren't parented, and you want to make sure you shift click on the armature, and then you want to do Control P, and then click Object. So now, as you can see, if we move it or rotate it in object mode, or scale it even, it works. I'm also going to name these bones. Alright, so we basically have the chest control done. Now it's time to do the eye controllers. So what we're going to do is, actually, we can just duplicate the mouth controller because it's going to have the same dimensions, so. And I'm going to get rid of, well, we don't really need to get rid of the limit location, we just need, this and this. So we're going to set this to minus 0.1, and we're going to set this to 0.1. So I'm going to name this right eye controller. I'm also going to duplicate it. I'm also going to move this back a bit so that it doesn't, yeah. And I'm also going to move these bones right over here. All right. So to make the eye controllers, there's like, wait, hold on, I forgot to name this. Now, technically, there are different ways to make the eye controller system. So the one that I'm going to be using and I use all the time whenever I try to make a rig is we're gonna add like a bone and like it'll basically like stretch when you move this up and down. So what we're going to do is we're gonna turn on the hide collection again, and we're going to add a new bone, and then we're going to move this right over here. about like this big. And I'm going to name this right eye. So I'm going to lock everything except the y-axis on the scale. So now what we're going to do is we're going to parent this bone, these two bones, and this bone to this bone. So now if we scale it down, it should look something like this. Now one thing that you might see is this error. So the way to fix this is actually pretty simple. All you really need to do is you need to basically add a vertex group for the head, and then just make sure that it's this bone right here, and then you want to make sure that the select mode is set to vertex, and make sure that you select this vertex point right here, and then click assign. Now make sure that this vertex point is only parented to this bone right here, the right eye bone. And if I check here, yeah. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that this vertex point is only weight painted on this vertex group and not on any other vertex groups, only specifically on this one. So I'm going to select the vertex point and then just click remove. Now I'm also going to apply it to this vertex point because we're going to be basically duplicating the stuff. So now it shouldn't, yeah, there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the bone constraints. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the bone constraint properties of this bone. We're going to add a transformation, and we're going to make sure that it's the armature, and since it's the right eye, it's going to be the right eye controller. Now we're going to set the owner and target to local space, but this time turn on extrapolate. So now we're going to set this to minus 0.1, which is the limit of the eye controller, and make sure that this is set to scale, and then this 0. Now, since we have extrapolate on, it also applies it when you move this up, this bone right here. But if we had extrapolate off, then it would only apply when it goes down. So that's why it's on, so that basically it just does this. Now one thing that you might see is this. Now, if you're not going to stretch the eye that much, you can just keep it, but if you just want to fix it, all you really need to do is you can alt click this, and then just press X and then dissolve edges, and then it's just basically gone. So yeah. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to symmetrize this and make sure that it's make sure that it's the other eye controller. There we go. Select this bone, this, and there we go. And yeah. Now you may see that the eye rails don't exactly move along. Now you could keep it like that, or you want it to follow along the eye controller. So what we're going to do is we're gonna move this bone down, and you want to add a transformation to the eyebrow. Now it's basically going to have almost the same system as the left eye here, but it's going to be a little bit different. So same system, but this time we're going to move it to about like minus 0.2. So now if I move this down, it works. I'm also going to copy this to this bone and then set it to the other eye controller. So now if we move the eye controllers, it works. Make sure that these two bones right here are parented to the face position. And make sure that the eyebrow position is also turns it to the face position. And yeah, there you go. And then you can just hide the hide collection. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next part of the tutorial. Bye.